Hello, viewers of online entertainment and education. I am your host of Give It the Beans, Sarah, and today we're going to examine this E210 2022 Toyota Corolla Apex Edition, which is a slight nod at the original GT Apex AE86, although they're absolutely nothing alike. But don't worry about that. Let's get this thing up in the air. Up, up. Hell yeah, this is old school, simple, super simple. There's nothing to this thing. How does this weigh 3,000 pounds? Got a single little stainless steel muffler over here on the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. I don't want no scrubs. A scrub is a kind of, never mind. Let's see how the diameter of this is. 45 mil or 1 3/4 inch piping. Got a multi-link rear suspension, all steel construction, including the rear subframe. Got that lilac anti-corrosion coating there on the hardware. It's a pretty interesting design. The anti-sway bar end link is connected to this little trailing link right here. And also take note, your rear strut is divorced from the spring, which is sitting in this bucket over here. So if you want to put coilovers on this car, something to take note of. That's also a pretty beefy rear anti-sway bar. 24 mil. Impressive. The E210 Corolla sedan sits on Toyota's TNGA-C platform. It's loaded up with that hairy cardboard sound insulation underneath here to give it a nice flat floor. Oh yeah, that's the extra hairy formula right there. It looks like they shaved walrus's pubes and glued it to the cardboard. I don't know what walrus pubes look like, that's gross. And there's also quite a bit of aluminum chassis bracing under this car. That's surprising and nice to see. Wow, it's hollow though. It's boxed, so it does add some strength to it, but weight savings also. Where's the weight coming from on this car? It looks like a Toyota robot got a little carried away at the cock in this corner. This just spewed everywhere right here. On a side note, look at the size of these resonators under the center of the car. These are massive for how loud the car is. It's not that quiet of a car. And look at the welding right here. That's similar to what you see on some Lexus products. It's got that really nice step down finish to the piping. I don't see how they're gonna do that. They're gonna have to re-engineer the tunnel and the subframe. I mean, just speculating, but there's a pretty damn good chance we're gonna be getting a GR all-wheel drive Corolla, but I don't see the room for a drive shaft in this tunnel. It's so cramped above the subframe as it is. Up front, we got some McPherson strut style front suspension. Everything is constructed of steel, including the knuckle, 100%. Well, I guess your tie rod, that's aluminum, but other than that, it's all steel up here. Up above that subframe, you have an electric assisted rack and pinion steering. And as far as the transmission goes, Toyota thankfully offers this with a 6-speed manual. This one, however, is equipped with the K120 Dynamic Shift CVT. Now, I know you're gonna say CVT, bleh, but hold on, this one's weird. It has an actual first gear. They call it a launch gear. So you're not actually taking off on the CVT transmission. You have a real gear for first, and then the CVT takes care of everything after that once you're already going. So it enables quicker shifts, simulated shifts, and it's more durable because you got a real gear to take off from a dead stop on. It's interesting, an interesting concept. Time for the braking test. I don't know why I'm so excited about doing a braking test in this thing. I just am. Ready? No one behind me? Go. Eee! That actually wasn't too bad. That was fun. It was like aggressive at the start and then it kind of like sloped down. It was like, ugh, it was like going down a slide. That's how it felt braking. It's like it melted. The car melted into the asphalt. I don't know why I'm still going on with this. The braking. was accomplished with a set of 10.8-inch front rotors and a cute little single pot floating front caliper. Around that though, you have an 18x8 gloss black wheel. That's a good looking wheel too. I like it a lot. It's got a slight bit of concave to it. It's wrapped in a 225/40 Michelin Primacy all season tire. 225 on an 8-inch wheel, huh? You could probably go a little bit wider, put some 245s on this thing. Looks like there's plenty of, is there room? Yeah, there's room back there between the strut. You could go wider. You could go bigger meats on this car. Out back, rotor gets a little bit smaller. You got a 10.2-inch rotor with another single pot caliper and same size wheel back here. And some hairy cardboard fender liners. Love these side skirts though, the gloss black with the bronze. This is a good looking car. In the name of science, it is now time to give this little thing the beans. I'm going to put it down into drive. Not going to use manual mode. I don't think it's going to help. And I will enable sport mode. It turns my gauges red. And disable traction control. Hold it down. I got VSC turned off. There we go. And let's see what this little thing can do. See if it can launch. Ready? Go. Oh, I was hoping it was going to be dramatic. Go, little car, go. Man, it sounds fucking angry. That's good. It's not slow once it gets going. It's a momentum car. That's what it is. It's a momentum car. Eat, pop. Where's the hood popper? There it is. Oh, that's a heavy hood. There's where the 3,150 pounds is. Hello and welcome to the meat and potatoes of this video, Garage Science. Underneath the hood of this 2022 Corolla Apex is the M20A FKS. It is a 2-liter all aluminum dual overhead cam, 16 valve direct and port fuel injected 4-cylinder, produces 169 horsepower at 6,600 RPM and 151 pound-feet of torque at 4,400 RPM. It's kind of old school, and that's what I like about this car. It's a simple recipe. If this car existed 20 years ago, people would be all about this thing right now. Other than the weight, it's 3,150 pounds in this configuration. And that's kind of the curl pit. That's kind of strange that the radiator core support just cliffs. It just drops right off right there, disappears. And then you have a bunch of plastic right here for your air intake induction. It looks like a little filter, like a pre-filter built in before the air filter itself. Digging in a little bit deeper into this M20A, the block itself is open deck, has the sleeves cast into it, does not have any forged internals from what I have researched, has a 13:1 compression ratio with an 80.5 by 97.5 millimeter bore and stroke. Does employ Toyota's D4S direct and port fuel injection system, so it keeps the back of those valves clean with that port fuel injection. Now speaking of the valves, it has VVT-IE on the intake side of things, so it is electronically controlled for the valve timing over there. The exhaust valves, however, have VVT-I, which is controlled via oil pressure. Maintenance-wise, it's old school. There's nothing really difficult underneath here. The only thing that looks like it'd be a pain is the fact that the exhaust manifold is in the rear, which is buried under that wiper cowl, and from the underside, you have that subframe completely blocking access to it. But aside from that, it's such a simple car that I really don't think it would be that big of a deal. Bolster check. Not that tight. Yeah, not really any butt bolstering either. They're comfy seats though. Sport mode engage. TCS off. Beams. Go. I don't know why I literally just got out of an S580 Mercedes doing that review on my other channel, link up above if you want to check that out. I'm more amped to drive this than I am that car. This is my jam right here. I like driving slow cars. It's more fun. I shouldn't say this is slow. It's slow in terms of it's just a hair over 28 grand, and that opens the door to quite a few other cars in this class that will outperform it. But I don't know, there's something special about this little Corolla. It's got so much character to it. I think that's what it is. It's a ton of character. Slow, but it has character. And I think there's a lot of room for tuning in this car. The chassis feels great. This TNGA-C. It's definitely got room for more power. It's a relatively comfortable car. It's a little stiff. It's a little droney on the inside with that exhaust. And I don't know how I feel about slow cars being loud, although it does put a smile on my face at times when I romp on it and I hear this little thing start buzzing away. It's weird. I drove the XSE hatchback with a manual, and that one had more of a raw sound to the engine. This one feels a little bit more muffled up front. I mean, there's a lot of drone coming from the rear with the muffler, but it sounds a little quieter up ahead, and I found that strange. I gotta give this CVT credit though. It does a great job when you're in the sport mode at keeping the revs up and making this thing playful and fun to drive. I mean, that's where the power band is at. Everything is up high on this car, so it makes sense that it's doing that, but slap it over into manual mode. Wow. Actually, really quick shifts. The upshifts are like that. Yeah, the downshifts too. Listen to that. It's quick. I mean, the shifts are, here you go. The CVT in this thing is so easy to manipulate, and you can just kind of keep it right there in the sweet spot by just kind of easing your foot on the throttle and preventing it from making those fake shifts. It's actually kind of fun in a weird way. Just balancing it right there. And it makes the car actually feel a lot faster than it actually is. This would be a great car on a real small, tight circuit, almost like a go-kart circuit. I think it'd be competitive. But the only thing that hampers this car is the weight. I mean, 3,150 pounds. Granted, this one has the sunroof and stuff, and if you get the manual transmission model, it's 100 pounds less, but this car should be like 2,700, not 3,150. There's way too much weight, and I don't see where it's at. It's bloated down with safety and all kinds of other stuff. And speaking of the tech and safety and stuff, it's got plenty of safety stuff on the interior, and the tech is decent. It says map, but it doesn't have nav installed. For the price, you'd think it would. I like the little brown stitching. It kind of matches the bronze on the outside. It's not a bad looking interior. It's a great looking car on the outside, I think. I personally love the styling of it. And I'm even more excited to see a GR edition because I think this will be a fantastic car with well over 250 horsepower. Fuel economy wise, you can hammer on this car as hard as you want, and it will still average above 30 miles per gallon. That's fantastic. So there's some trade-offs to this not being the fastest car in its class. If this was priced a couple $1,000s cheaper, just a few, like around 25, 26 as equipped like this, I would be like, dude, this is phenomenal value. It's just when you start encroaching up into that Civic SI, GTI, Veloster, those territories, the cars that are quite a bit quicker. If you guys never seen one of my car reviews before, I have multiple categories to rate and assess them, starting with the bean score. There's a rating of 1 to 5 beans based on the feeling you get behind your belly button when you give it those beans. And this little Corolla with the CVT is getting a rating of 0.9 of a bean. It's a smidge slower, I suspect, than the 6-speed manual version of the XSE hatchback I reviewed last year, but it's not that noticeable. It's just a tiny, tiny bit. Either way, it's still a fun car, and it's okay, you tried. Next though is the cookie score. I just talked to that thing, that just happened. It's assessment of 1 to 5 cookies based on what you get for what you spend. And that's $28,000 in change. Apex Edition sedan is getting a rating of 2.4 cookies. That's just a hair below average. And the reason why? It costs the same as the new Civic Si, and the Civic Si would mop the floor with this thing performance-wise. Next is the mechanic score. It is an assessment of 1 to 5 wrenches based on how difficult a vehicle would be to work on. 1 being absolute terrible nightmare mess, and 5 being a super simple, easy car to maintain. And the little Corolla right there is getting a rating of 4.2. It's a pretty high score because it's a pretty simple recipe. The only areas of issue would be the fact that this one has the CVT, so it's a little bit of added complexity, and the back half of the engine by the firewall is kind of tight. But all in all, simple car. It's a Toyota. This thing will last forever probably. Lastly though is a penguin score. It is a rating of 1 to 5 penguins based on how much I personally like a car. And the little Corolla Apex, it's getting a rating of 3.7 penguins. I like these. I can't help it. Even though they're slow, I still like it. It's a very likable car. When you drive it and it just buzzes along and you chuck it into corners, it makes you smile. I think driving a slow car fast is one of the most enjoyable things there is. And when this thing gets a proper drivetrain, all-wheel drive with that turbo 3-cylinder from the Yaris GR, this thing is gonna be next level. That's gonna be Celica GT4 Epic, and I cannot wait. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I will see you soon with another. Bye.